This is the ancient ruin in the city of Plovdiv in southern Bulgaria. It's an area which is steeped in history, where great battles have been fought for hundreds of years. In the 2nd century, it was the Romans who conquered here, and they left behind this theatre to make their mark. 2,000 years on, and Plovdiv is a centre for culture, the 2nd largest city in Bulgaria and home to 3 professional football teams. It's on the banks of the Marista River here in the Balkan Peninsula, and it's the venue that's been chosen for the 63rd World Float Fishing Championships. Plovdiv is known as the City of 7 Hills, spanning the river and providing a home to more than 500,000 people. But from the 2nd century onwards, pretty much anyone who was anyone invaded here. From the Persians to the Greeks, the Celts, Romans, Huns, Goths and Ottomans. Its culture reflects that incredibly rich history. And alongside culture comes an obsession with sport. As well as those football teams, the city is home to the largest international rowing course in the Balkans. This is where anglers from 34 nations will be competing for the float fishing world title, the most prestigious honour in angling. The competition takes place over 2 days. Before it gets underway though, there's a week of official practice to help the teams work out their tactics. There were some good days and some bad for everyone. It was clear all wasn't going according to plan.
We've had some ups and downs these last 4 days, to be fair. Andy, we got off to a good start. We drew a low number on first day for practice session. We had some good weights. A 9, 7, 7, 6. It was great. We thought this is going to be a good fishery. Second day we got a bit of a comeuppance. We had 3 in the kilos, a 2 kilo and a 4 kilo. And then yesterday, great again, 9, 8, 7. We beat everybody around us quite convincingly. Today we've really fell on our sword because we've done extra checks again today and they absolutely battered us.
It's been strange so far. I expected something different than it has turned out so far. First day we were actually in an area where they never fish the competitions, and that was to be seen. On the other side of the bridge a lot more fish were caught, where there is normally some more fishing going on. And obviously the fish still have to spread out, and there wasn't so many in the area where we were all the way down to the end. Now the fish have spread out, and yesterday, after the first 2 training days, third day looked exactly as I expected, better and better. So today I expect even more fish, a lot less fish. Now I'm worried, is there enough fish in this venue?
Every World Championship is a difficult competition. There isn't an easy championship, because here there are the best angler of the world. This venue, I think, may be good for Italy, because Carasio and carp, we know very well Carasio and carp, and we know the situation to catch this fish.
Quite often when we do well as a team, we don't pick up on the key sort of the real important things till the last day or 2. Yesterday I felt like we learned quite a lot, and going into today it's a little bit disappointing, but the teams to our left didn't catch anything, so maybe we were in a little bit of a bad area. But the key seems to be catching 2 or 3 of these bigger carp. If you can do that, I think you're going to get good points.
The rowing course has been stocked with fish, especially for the event, although the venue's no stranger to fishing competitions. This is where England's Tommy Pickering won the individual world gold in 1989. Friday is the final day of practice, and England's team of 6 anglers are trying to find the winning method in the hope of repeating Tommy's success 28 years on. It's a float-only event, so no feeder fishing or ledgering. And it's looking like the match will be fished using running line tactics. So Des, really interesting watching the tactics here on this particular stretch of water. Most of the time in these championships we see pole fishing, but this time it's very different. So if you could just run us through the rigs that you've been using.
Yeah, well, running through the slider rig that we've been using, even though it's only about 9 foot deep, and everybody associates the slider with fishing a real deep venue up to sort of 12, 20 foot deep, but you can still use it. Probably the minimum depth you can fish is sort of 6 foot. But first things first, rod, a powerful rod. I'm chucking a big float out. That's a 15 gram float. You've got a 10 gram billet, and then you've got some shot below which locks everything into place. That won't move. That's really important with slider fishing, that stays dead still. So coming down from the load in of the float, I've got probably about 70 centimetres of 10-pound line. This helps it stop tangling. It's like a stiff boom, if you like. There's my dropper shot with my little mini swivel and a foot at length. The foot at length is 0.014, which is about 3.5 pound, because we are, you could hook a big carp and you don't want to be losing it. And a 16, quite a fine hook. It's not massive hooks we're using, but just a nice hook. We're using double maggot in 3-4 bloodworm, maybe 3 maggots. So it just suits what we're trying to catch, really.
The interesting bit of this rig though is the fact that the float actually slides up the line.
There's me bulk. There's me float, and I've actually got a little bead, and the purpose of that little bead is, on me stop knots, which are further up the line, which I'll show you in a minute, on there I've got a float adapter, but as you can see with that float, that swivel on the float adapter is quite big, so the sliding knots could go through there. So this little bead, it won't go through that hole, but it will stop the knots going through. The float works its way up to the stop knots, like that. So the bead hits the stop knots. Once again, I've got 10 pound on there. There's a reason for that. I don't want never that to move. Once I've set my depth, I'm casting out all the time. I don't want anything to move. If I ever want to move those, just lick it first. There's 2 knots there, not just one. It's all just make sure everything stays where it is. So if there's one moved, I'll move the other one like that. So if I want to put some depth on, I can move them. Obviously down towards the hook is shallower, towards the rod is deeper.
So with Des nailing down the method, England selected their team for the first day. The 2012 World Individual Champion Shaun Ashby was left out of the starting lineup. Will Raisin was drawn to fish in A section. 5-time World Champion Alan Scotthorne was in B. Callum Dix, the youngest member of the team, was in C. Steve Hemingway was in D, Des Shipp in E. Reigning world champions Italy had Andrea Fini in A, Ferruccio Gabber in B, Gianluigi Sorti in C, Giuliana Prandi in D, and Jacopo Falsini in E. The smart money on the other contenders here in Bulgaria went on the Czech Republic and Hungary, led as ever by reigning European and double world individual champion Tomas Volta. But on a venue like this, anything could happen. Callum, hive of activity in your peg this morning. You're even a bit out of breath. It's a hot one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got hot and hot as the week's gone on, but it's a lovely venue, lovely place, so if we can catch a few fish today, it'll be alright.
How are your nerves?
Yeah, it's good. I'm nervous, which I always am, and you should be for World Championships. It's the elite level, the very, very top, so you should be nervous. I like it when I'm nervous. It shows I'm taking it seriously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it though, because I like this type of fishing, so yeah, it should be good.
Talk us through your draw. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about it really. The thing is, it's a rowing course. It's dead straight. There's one gap with the bridge, so there's not much of a muchness really. You know, we fished here Thursday. We didn't catch a lot, but I don't think we've done it quite right. So yeah, could be alright. Yeah, should be fine.
Paul, what's his situation? What do you reckon? His nerves seem to be jangling a little bit.
I don't know. He's third, fourth year now at this, and I think he's getting used to it. Every year it comes a bit easier, but I think he's ready for it. Yeah.
You mentioned 3 or 4 years. I mean, track his development since that debut that he made back in Croatia. I know how excited he was to be on the bank and wearing an England shirt then, and he's come into himself in this environment, hasn't he?
That's right. You can't beat experience. There's absolutely, you just cannot beat it. You know, to be here and to see and know what it's doing, feel the tension and the nerves on the day, and to come through it and improve each time, there's no substitute for that. You just cannot beat it. You just got to be here and do it.
So you're running the bank for him today. How are your nerves? What's it like for you seeing your boy sat there and fishing for his country?
Probably worse than for him, actually fishing, if the truth was told. But no, I've done it a few years now. I can't remember, 11 or 12 in total through all the youth and all that. And it's the same for me. It does get easier, know what to expect and know what you've got to do. And I've got my radio and keep in touch with everybody else. So, yeah, it should be all right.
Where do you see the match being won and lost today from what you've seen in practice this week?
The truth is, I really do not know. We haven't had the best practice week. We did feel that yesterday, our last practice day, towards the end of the session, we were starting to get to grips with the venue a bit, and the lads were a lot more confident and happier with the fishing than they were a day before. So hopefully what we learned in the last hour and a half was right, and we won't really know until today.
Well, John, there's the hooter for the pre-baiting period. We're going to see some very interesting feeding patterns because this venue is just an extraordinary place to fish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, there's going to be just one massive bombardment of bait all over the place today as people decide where to feed first. But if you look behind you, you can see there's people feeding on the pole. There's a lot of balls of ground bait being fired out up to 50 metres on a waggler or a slider line as well. So.
Let's talk about the tactics then, because what we're going to see, from what I can gather going along beforehand, we're going to see a combination of people starting on the pole short because the fish tend to seem to feed on that line early. But it's the running line fishing I'm really interested in seeing. I mean, what's that like in these events?
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to be won and lost, really. I think that is 90% of most teams' game plan is further out on a running line float. Whether that's a slider or whether it's a fixed waggler. It's not a deep venue, but they are still using sliding floats in areas just for better presentation and stuff. But it's going to be really, really interesting. So, I mean, some people will be firing in up to like 50 hand-sized balls of ground bait today, and that's good fun to do, and it's good fun to watch and see how accurate some of these anglers are.
Feeding in these situations, I mean, everybody knows with a pole, you know, you've got the cup on the end of the pole, you put a little ball of ground bait in the cup, and it's easy to, fairly easy anyway, to get it very accurate. But when you're starting to fire balls of ground bait at 50, 60, 70 turns, how do you go through that process? How do you make sure that you're feeding the right area?
Well, it's all down to practice. These guys, I mean, I know the England squad quite well, and they've all been practicing for weeks and weeks and years really, I suppose. It all adds up, and they'll cut down the catapults to get exactly the right range. They'll have different catapults for different ranges, and even I bet you could weigh the size of their ground bait balls and they wouldn't be far away from each other, and that sort of consistency. And if you sat behind Alan Scott or Steve Hemingway, who's behind us here now, you just see how frighteningly accurate they are.
Really interested in the venue, as we've said. I mean, it's a rowing course, it's 2.5 kilometres long. It's even bank, the bottom's all the same all the way along, there's not a breath of wind. Where are the edges in this match?
I think most of the teams have spent a week wondering that themselves. I mean, often on these matches, certain teams do have a little edge, they do have a little secret, and we've not seen any, but there might be. I mean, Italy is certainly standing out as out-and-out red-hot favourites, so they're doing something different to everyone else. It can't just be ability alone, so it comes down to your ground bait mix, the little nuances in presentation, what you're putting on the hook, you know, little things, and confidence as well, because I think, you know, this will be won and lost in the last hour.
Well, we're a few minutes away from the start of the match proper now. There'll be a hooter to start the match off, and then we're going to see possibly one of the most interesting World Championships we've seen for very many years. Well, John, the hooter's just gone for the start of the match. We're still on the bridge overlooking the top part of the match length. There's Steve Hemingway of England. That's his first cast. That has got to be a good sign, sure.
First cast, first fish. Hopefully it's a counting fish, but it looks like a Carasio. So, and Peg 5's caught one as well. They literally cast the wagglers out in unison and have pretty much struck in unison as well. So yeah, 4 and 5 and Peg 3. They've all caught a fish straight away. So not a bad start for this end of the section.
I suppose the difficulty with something like this, where there's no wind to push the fish around, and we know, you know, shoal fish like Carasio get pushed around by the wind all the time. they're going to sit in an area unless there's something to move them, aren't they?
Yeah, and what generally moves them is feed. You know, the noise of feed, it'll either push them away or hopefully it will draw them in. And I think the anglers at the perhaps a bit more aggressive in these hotter weather, in these hotter countries. They seem to be a bit more responsive.
Well, we can see there on peg A9 there's Slovakia's Lubos Krupica, who again is playing one of these Plovdiv carp, and he is 2 pegs to the left of England's Will Raisin on peg A11. Now the news here for England is pretty favourable, John, because we understand that Will's had 1 carp.
Yeah, he's just missed the bite as well, I think. But it's a tough section. So having 1 carp is a good sign, really, that he's doing something half right.
The last time we saw Will Raisin in the European Championships, he had a fairly tough match, didn't he? He was scratching around for small fish and in difficult draws and difficult sections. I get the feeling this sort of fishing is more up Will's street.
Oh, just sliding it under. That's a good fish.
He's landed it. That is a good fish.
But Will's just struck and he's playing a fish as well. So
let's have a little look at that fish for a second. That's another one of those 2 kilo-ish fish. Let's just swing around and look at Will Raisin. Well, Will's had quite a few indications the last couple of minutes. We just saw him land what's got to be the smallest fish you're likely to see in these championships.
Yeah, everyone thought it was a little crassio, including Will, and then all of a sudden it came flying out of the water. But this is definitely a crassio, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean they're not very big, but they're weight builders, aren't they?
Yeah, they're chunky fish. Very little fat fish in this venue. So they might not be very long, but they certainly got a bit of a belly on them.
And here's an angler we can't discount, A29, Tomas Volta, reigning European individual champion, former world individual champion. One of the best anglers in the world, no question about it. And as you can see, Tomas is playing a carp. Hungary have got a decent chance here too. They're a very, very strong team. They're developing all the time and pushed along by this man. What's really interesting in this match so far, it's pretty clear, it doesn't seem to matter really where you're pegged. I suppose that's a good and a bad thing. There goes the carp into the net, brilliantly landed by Tomas. A little flutter of applause. That's a nice sized carp of probably 2 kilos, similar size to the one that Steve Hemingway of England landed right at the very start of the match. Hook goes out, reaches for his disgorger. And the European champion pops a carp into his keep net. Tomas Volta is in good shape too. This is A33. We're behind Italy's Andrea Fini, the former world champion. We're about half an hour into the match, and the news here is that Andrea's had 2 fish already, a perch and a carassio. You can see his waggler is appearing out in front of him, and it's pretty clear that this is a carp. Up comes the landing net. Second go for Fini to land this fish. Up goes the head, into the net it goes. Safely landed. Well, John, we're behind Ferruccio Gabba of Italy in B17. He's had 4 fish already. First hour's gone. All 4 of those fish are carp. And his bank runner reckons he's got 3.5 kilo. He's just struck into another bite he's got a fish on. You've just walked past Andrea Fini in A section. We saw him land a carp early on.
Yeah.
He's had some more, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, he's on 5 fish at least. So, and I've just watched him aggressively feed 4 balls in 4 chucks with a catapult, and then with behind Gabba, and he's just done the same. And before his last ball hit the water, he struck, and he's had another carassio. So they're definitely coming to this feed. I think I noticed yesterday, and there's definitely the most aggressive feeding team, and it's definitely working.
Well, that's interesting. We've just seen Alan Scott on fire a ball of ground bait in, and look at what's happened now.
Yeah, he fired it about, I don't know, half a metre short of his float. He's just reeled it slowly over exactly where the ball landed, and well, a minute later, and he's playing a carassio. But it's looking like everyone in the section is now upping up their feed as well. It soon spreads along what's happening. Yeah, I think the English mentality when it's hard is to cut back, and in these hot countries it seems to be more keep feeding, and something will happen, and that seems to be the case today.
Well, John, this is fascinating. We've made our way up into the low numbers of C section. We're behind Yuri Sipsov of Russia, of course, reigning world champion, but this, I'm afraid, is a case of how the mighty have fallen, because we're nearly 2 hours in and his sum total of fish caught is 0.
Yeah, not good for the Russian, but again, it's just that the halfway stage. Didier Delanoy, former world champion, he was in practice never had a fish for 3 hours and 45 minutes, and then had a carp and a good fish in the last 2 chucks. So this can happen.
Just got to keep the faith.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, he's got an Italian next door, so he's being shown how to fish. You know, almost he's been shown what we think are the leading team's tactics. So he's close enough to see what they're up to.
The talk on the bank among the Italian bank runners is that Italy are doing really well in 3 of their 5 sections, but not so well in the other 2. And they're saying that Sorti is probably 5th or 6th in section, which is kind of the midway point, isn't it, really? In a section like this, you'd expect him to be in the top 3.
Well, I think you'd still be happy if he's about 5th or 6th in a section, and this fish is probably going to push him up a little bit more as well.
C17 and Callum Dix, whose nerves were jangling at the start, John, but he's had a decent second hour. His first hour really hard work. He only had 1 fish, but he's had 5 in the second hour, and the talk here is that he's probably 2nd or 3rd in the section, which is great news for England.
Yeah, he's doing well. I imagine he's behind the Hungarian who had that great big carp, so if he's the next after him, then he's doing very well.
Long distance waggler work again for Callum.
Yeah, I've noticed the English seem to be fishing and feeding a little bit further out than the other nations. Hopefully that'll be an advantage for him. I assume that's their tactics.
Well, there's the England co-manager Mark Downs on his radio. Communication in these matches is absolutely everything. Mark is sitting behind Steve Hemingway in peg D4. But news is just reaching the England management that Des Ship, who is in E section, has just caught a carp of about 2 kilos. There's been a little change of tactics for England. Des has changed something in his ground bait, changed something with his hook baits, and it's paid dividends straight away. And the news for England is fairly promising at this stage, we think. We think that Will Raisin in A section is probably winning his section. We're not sure about Alan Scott Horn. He's not doing all that well in his section. But in C, Callum Dix is in the top 3 or 4 anglers. We think that Steve Hemingway is probably midway in his section, and with that carp in E, Des Ship will have gone way up the section. Well, we're behind Des Ship in E25, and I'm with Shaun Ashby, who's working as Des's bank runner today. Shaun, just tell me what your impression is of what Des is doing at the moment. He's doing pretty well here.
Yeah, I think I've not been down the bottom end for, I don't know, half an hour, but I think he's going to be 2nd in section at the moment. The Slovenian kid's got 6 or 7 carp down there, but Des has it's come off.
Would you believe it?
He's got 2 carp. One of them's a good one. Well, they're both pretty big. Well, he's got 1 2.5 kilo, 1 1.5 kilos. I think he'll be 2nd, Des.
So here we have Slovenia's Mita Metec in peg E31. He's 4 pegs in from the end of the entire 2.5 kilometre match length, and he's having a superb match. And you can see he's playing a decent fish on his feet, going left, going right. And Metec has had a really good run of decent sized fish. We think he has in excess of 8 kilos. And if you remember earlier on, we were thinking that 6, 7, 8 kilos would probably be the top weight in the match. It may be that he's leading overall. So there's the waggler of Mita Metec, and landing net just about to bring this carp under control. Prepare for this carp to bolt when it sees the surface too. They often do that. Sometimes they'll turn over and just go straight in. That's a lovely fish. Look at that. Congratulations from the Luxembourg angler Fernand Schmidt next door. He's been getting a bit of neck ache so far this afternoon, seeing Metec land fish like that one, and that's a fantastic carp. He's got to be heading towards 10 kilos, and that's going to be a weight that's very difficult indeed to beat in this match. Oh. Well, that's the end of the match, and you can just see Italy's Jacopo Falsini on peg E12 putting a last fish in his keep net, which was hooked within seconds of the end of the match. The rules here that the fish has to be in the net when the hooter goes. The hooter has just gone. Falsini has landed that safely. He's the one member of the 5-man Italian team who struggled here on this stretch of water. But as we've said already, each of the teams in contention seem to have one struggler. Scales are on their way, and that's the only way we're going to find out who's done what on the first day of these World Championships. So here we are at the business end then, and this is Des Ship on E25 for England. So far the best weight in this section is just over 5 kilos, and Des has definitely got more than that. He's got one big carp in his net, a couple of other backup fish as well. He could have 7, 8, 9 kilos. We don't think there's any chance that Des has won the section because the Slovenian angler in the higher numbers has had a hell of a day. And news from the rest of the England camp will filter through as the weigh-ins take place. But it sounds as if England have done okay. The big worry, of course, is Alan Scotthorne. There's the total then for Des Ship of England on peg E25, 9 kilos, 808. Talk us through your match then, Maestro.
Well, very difficult at the start, Andy. Didn't know what to expect really. After 45 minutes, I don't think I've had a fish. So it was a bit of a bottle job really. The old butterflies started kicking in. And then all of a sudden I started feeding. That was the team plan. It seemed to have worked. I've had a nice little spell at the end. I've caught, I think I've ended up with 5 carp. I've lost one, which was about a pound. That was hooked. You could sort of see it was hooked really, really deep. Missed a few indications of that, but all right really. When we come on these things, we try and fish it a bit like England, but it's not. It's very hot. The fish are used to it. And you need a bit of luck on this sort of venue. We've known that during the week, team practicing. You can have one carp which could be a pound. You could have one which is 6, 7 pound. And if you get that sort of luck, that's what's going to win you it on the day, I think, for a lot of teams.
Well, John, here we are with Metech, and this is going to be a very interesting weighing indeed. He's had a stellar match.
He's really enjoyed himself. I watched him catch his last fish with a minute of extra time, a minute before time to spare, and he's absolutely pumped it in, and I reckon it was 2 or 3 kilo. And I've never heard a cry of a roar of relief for getting that fish in. He looks like the match winner to me.
And we shouldn't underestimate teams like Slovenia because they've proved in the past that they can catch big fish, and this is a big fish match, isn't it? Look at that net of fish, isn't it fantastic?
Well, the rumour I've heard, yes. The rumour I've heard is they've got at least 4 in the top 3 in the section.
11 kilos, that is, 11 kilos. So, Metech is pumped, I think is fair to say. Well done, please sign. Well done, please sign. He's going to sign. He's going to shake hands.
What to say? Everybody said that I'm very good on match, so I go on everything or nothing. So we try to do our best. In Slovenia, there is one very good lake where I'm fishing on very big distance, so I don't have big problems. I had some problems with nervosity, but I made it.
Same again tomorrow, mate. World champion.
Oh, it will be difficult, but I will be very happy.
So while Metech celebrated in style, the story of the day unfolded. It was Hungary who were on top of the leaderboard, even though they only won in one of the 10 sections. 3 seconds, a first and a fifth, gave them 12 points. Reigning champions Italy won 3 sections but were off the pace in the other 2. They were second with 15. The Czech Republic were third, with England in fourth on 23. Incredibly, it was a 10th in section for Alan Scotthorne, which helped push England down the leaderboard. Scotthorne was dropped for the second day and replaced by Shaun Ashby. Individually, Metech was in the box seat. Italy's Ferruccio Gabba was in second. England's Will Raisin won his section and was one of 10 anglers on a single point after the first day. Yesterday was a kind of a tricky match for everybody. What's the kind of the feeling this morning about where England can get to in this competition?
Obviously we've got some very consistent, very good teams ahead of us. So I think winning it, realistically, unless we come back with an unbelievably low point score. But the object of the exercise now is to try and get a medal. It's pointless fishing conservative because we're just out of the medal positions. We need a low score.
This style of fishing suits you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love it, mate. I love fishing in warm countries and that, where you can feed a lot of bait, carp, crassio and that.
And of course you've got 1 point from overnight. I know it's all about the team, but we have got a sniff of an individual gold here.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I just want to try and do my job for the team. Anything else that comes along is a welcome bonus.
I won't say Will's my banker, but if Will gets beat by a Czech or an Italian, not only will it cost him individual, I don't think we can get a medal. So I think William is the best angler on the bank for us all week, and I'm convinced he'll take points both the team and individually for himself today. 12 points I think could get us bronze. I think we're going to go sub 10 to get a silver. And then I don't know if I'll
Well, good morning, John. Day 2, sun shining again, not a breath of wind once again on the rowing course, and we're behind Will Raisin in the pre-baiting period, D22. This is a very big day for everybody here.
Yeah, I mean, Will's got a right chance of potentially coming home as a individual gold medalist, but first things first, he's got to get good points for his team. I mean, it was clear that the Hungarians and the Italians definitely, and the Czechs all had the feeding dead right. They've done something better than every other team. It was too clear cut to be anything else really. So I mean, England did well in 4th as well. They know they need a good result today, and the only way to do that is to fish very, very positively on the waggler.
If you look at the way Will's feeding now, I mean, he's not stopped. There's just a constant chain of balls of ground bait flying out at that marker float, and that's a lot of feed. What's your feeling about where this match will be won and lost on day 2?
Well, it's going to be won and lost with bonus carp, I think.
Well, Johnny, we're underway. I don't think it's any surprise that Will's float was the first one to hit the water. He's really up for this today.
Oh yeah, you can see he's proper psyched up, so he's really in the zone.
This opening kind of first 20 minutes yesterday, one of the first things we saw is that a few carp moved in and they were caught quite early, weren't they?
Yeah, I expect there will be some decent fish hooked very early, and then you'll probably... Oh,
look at that.
Right on cue.
Right on cue, there's a bite.
Yeah. Well, that's if he can get this in, that's an absolutely brilliant start.
He's winding quite quickly, but he's on his feet, so
yeah.
What do you think, carp or crassio?
I think this might be a carp, but Will's so aggressive when he plays fish. He keeps winding and winding. I think the idea is, as long as their head's facing that way, if you keep winding, they can only go that way once you've turned them. And it's really important not to let it go out of his zone into another angler's peg.
He's already going for his landing now.
Well, it could be a crassio then. Oh
no,
he's got it.
Oh, it came off and Will scooped it.
That's
That's incredible.
Right, yeah. That's either a small carp or a crassio. Great start.
He's off the mark, that's the important thing, isn't it? We've made it up to A section now. The match is about 25 minutes or so in. We're behind Callum Dix of England in A13. And you can see that Callum is playing a fish. This is actually the 3rd fish he's hooked. He's got 2.5 kilos in his keep net already, so that puts him in a fantastically strong position at the start of this match. There's a decent crowd of people standing behind Callum. Interesting section this for Callum because he hasn't got the Italians, the Czechs or the Hungarians to compete with, so he'll be the nailed-on favourite to win this section. He finished 4th in section yesterday. Oh, it's a huge carp. He's got it. Wow, that's a tremendous fish. Up in the higher numbers of A section now, we're behind Balazsguri of Hungary in peg A20. He was one of 3 Hungarian anglers to finish 2nd in section yesterday. Very, very consistent performance from the Hungarians. 1 section win and 3 seconds and a 5 points. That's what's put them ahead. They're on 12 points and they're 3 points ahead of Italy. And Zaguri here has had a decent start. So we're kind of 40 minutes into the match. He's had 3 Carassio, which puts him up in the section. Just getting the feeling it's a bit of a quiet start. Although we've seen Callum Dix catch that big carp in the other part of A section, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot else happening here, and I just wonder whether this match is going to start very slowly and build later on as those carp come on the feed. All the feed that's gone in, we saw Will Raisin piling in balls of ground bait first thing this morning. Those carp will switch on at some point today, I'm sure they will, and we'll start to see one or two more fish coming out. We can see Ferruccio Gabba of Italy sliding the landing net under another Carasio. That's his 6th of the morning so far. One of those sort of 250, 300 gram fish for the Italian. It actually is hard to see how England can start to claw back any points on the Italians and the Hungarians if they keep catching. They just simply won't be able to do it. So maybe what we're going to see here is a battle between the Italians, the Hungarians and possibly the Czech Republic for those 3 podium places. Well, B20, and this is England's Des Ship, who has had a fantastic start to the match today. Des has already had 5 small carp and a couple of Carasio. We think he may be up towards 5 kilos already and is probably winning the section. So if Callum Dix in A section is winning there and Des Ship in B is winning here, that means England are in a brilliant position. Well, we're behind the Italian angler Giuliano Prandi now on C2. And he's had 3 fish in the match so far, so a pretty slow first hour and a half. He's one of 4 anglers really in with a chance of lifting that individual gold. He won his section yesterday with approaching 9 kilos, so not far at all behind the Slovenian. Well, here's Hungary's Tomas Volta in C7. Just winding in what looks like probably a Carasio, not a very big fish. Tomas is having a bit of a struggle here in C. He's landed that one safely. He's 5th or 6th in his section, and his performance here will be absolutely vital to the Hungarian team who are leading the event overnight. But they have been in this position before. They have been in contention for the world title and have missed out. We're here on peg 24 in C section is Mita Metec, the man who's leading the entire World Championships overnight. Gives us a little look over his shoulder. Brilliant performance from Mita yesterday. 11 kilos to absolutely blitz the entire field. And his celebrations afterwards were something to behold too. Really enjoyed his performance, but today, as so often happens in these World Championships, it has to be said, this venue is paying him back a little bit, because so far Mita has only managed to catch 5 or 6 small Carasio, and he's probably 5th or 6th in the section. And on 6 points, 5 or 6 points, because you add together his results from day 1 to the ones he gets on day 2, he's not going to be on the podium. Peg 32 in C section, and that is Shaun Ashby, who replaced Alan Scott Horn from the first day, and you can see the England manager Mark Downs is standing behind Shaun. This is the area that England are really worried about at the moment, because things just aren't happening for Shaun Ashby. Amazingly, in the peg right next door, Slovakia's Ratislav Duda is probably winning the section. He's had 3 carp, but Shaun has only had 2 small Carasio. He just doesn't seem to be able to get a bite from a carp, and we're at the stage in the match now where catching carp has proved to be the most difficult. About 2 hours in, at that halfway stage when it tends to go a little bit dead. Now what will happen here is that England will be working really hard to try and get Shaun Ashby up that leaderboard, because it seems at the moment the potential is that England could have 4 section winners, so 4 points. And if Shaun Ashby finishes last in section, which is where we believe he is at the moment, that will be 17 points, so England will get 21. So Mark, what's happening?
Well, on the face of it, we're doing well in 4 sections, and we've got a bit of a minor disaster going on with Shaun in C section. It's typical really. Alan went through a similar thing yesterday. He went very, very far out and couldn't generate any bites, where everybody around him was catching a few fish. So we've done something a bit drastic here. We've refed again at 25 metres, come inside, and he's had 1 Carasio virtually straight away.
You said this morning that you might need a miracle to get on the podium.
I said if we can get single figure points, then we'd definitely go on the podium, possibly a silver. We're on about 19 points at the moment, which might be a possibility of nicking a bronze.
Well, John, we're behind Steve Hemingway, peg E22 for England, and what's the story here, do you think?
Steve's doing exceptionally well. He's had 3 big carp now, possibly 2 kilo apiece, and some Carasio on top of that.
We can see Steve with catapult in hand now, feeding a couple of balls of ground bait.
Yeah.
It goes a third.
They've definitely learnt from yesterday. He's feeding 3 balls, a quick volley of bites, and the last carp he had immediately after doing this, and he's putting lots of worms in his mix each time as well.
So do you think England have come possibly to the winning method, but maybe a day late?
Well, possibly. I mean, but if the Italians and Hungarians were on the winning method yesterday, it's not necessarily working as well as they'd hoped today. So they've just gone much more positive, England, and it's working in 4 out of 5 sections. They just need Shaun Ashby to catch now.
All right, at the top of E section now, peg 33. This is Hungary's Gabor Magyar, another of the anglers who was a section winner from yesterday, so potential for that individual gold. It's starting to look as though Hungary aren't winning the match today. They're certainly doing enough to potentially take that gold medal, which for the Hungarian team will be a massive, massive achievement. We're in the last 25 minutes of the match now. The news for England is still not very good from Shaun Ashby's peg. In fact, Shaun has not had a bite for an hour and 55 minutes. Now we're behind Will Raisin, who at the start of proceedings today was a section winner with a single point. We fancied his chances of potentially being on the podium and getting gold, but the news is not that promising here either for England.
No, it sounds like his French neighbour next door has overtaken him now. He was 300 grams in front. The French and the English runners had the Frenchman 300 grams in front, and he's just had 2 Carasio since then. We've heard Hungary sound like they're walking it, from what I've heard. But after that, there's still silver and bronze medal.
Well, we're into the last minute now, and this is probably Will Raisin's last cast. Remember, any fish hook now have to be actually in the landing net by the time the hooter finishes sounding. So I think this is pretty much it for England, for Hungary, for Italy, for the Czech Republic. Will it be England who've managed to get onto the podium? Will it be the Italians? Will it be the Hungarians? I think our money's on Hungary for team gold. The individual remains to be seen, but that's it. It's all over here at the rowing course in Plovdiv, and now we wait for the scales. Well, here we go then, John, the moment of truth. This is Will Raisin's way on D22 for England. Yeah, we understand at least 2 of the other anglers in this section could possibly have beaten Will. One is the Frenchman next to him, and the other is the Polish angler Adam Niemiec, who's ironically a very good friend of Will Raisin's, who's on the MPEG. That's a very nice carp in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
6 kilos, 345 for Will Raisin. Great big round of applause and well deserved, but Will Raisin is ruining a fish that he didn't lose in the match. He actually was forced to put it back. The rules of the competition state that if you hook a fish and it goes through your neighbour's peg and tangles with their line, it doesn't count, and that is unfortunately for Will exactly what happened. A carp of about 5 pounds, we understand, tore off to Will's right, tangled up with the Frenchman's rig at the end, and when Will landed the fish, finally got it out and got the landing net under it, that fish didn't count. So that is going to cost Will Raisin very dearly indeed. And I'm starting to get a picture here, John, that this is going to be a case of what might have been for England.
Will knows he could have had a gold medal today.
So it looks like you're third in the section. It's been hell of an afternoon. Talk us through your match and unfortunately tell us about that carp that you had to put back in.
Yeah, I mean the World Championships rules are if you hook another person's line, the fish has to be returned. Unfortunately, I hooked a real big carp early. First carp I hooked, went round the French bloke next to me line, had to put it back. I think that's probably going to cost me winning the section, which is, well, I don't know. Rules are rules, so that's it. You know, you're 10, 11 metres apart, Andy. You know, it's difficult to control a 5 or a 6 pound fish, but, you know, rules are rules. Like I say, one day it might, you know, come out in my advantage.
So Will Raisin paid the price for the carp which went through the peg of the angler next door and had to be returned unweighed. Had it counted, Will would have been celebrating his 2nd world title. And here are the final scores. In the individual standings, it was Slovenia's Jernej Ambrozic who took the gold with 2 section wins out of 2. He was the only angler with a perfect score over the 2 days. The Italians were left to ponder what might have been. An incredible collapse on day 2, which saw them claim 39 points, pushed the holders off the podium. England took the bronze medal. The Czech Republic claimed silver. It was Hungary who were crowned world champions, though, for the first time since 2003.
It's really a good feeling. We won the title after 15 years trying it. I'm really happy. I had almost everything. It was the missing title, and honestly, it's the most important one, because being happy alone is one thing, but being happy together is another one. I really like this situation, and I'm very proud to be the member of the team.
Every time you come here, it's different, and it's different again this time. But some great teams on the podium, and we're well chuffed to get a bronze medal anyway.